How did you get into the game industry and to the gaming world?
I've got a Commodore 64. Yeah, so I wrote a text adventure game in BASIC called, what did I call it? Agoraphobia, it was called. It had like 3 locations and was basically full of really naughty and rude things to do, because the idea was to make my friends laugh.
How old were you?
This must have been when I was about 12 or 13, I guess.
Wow.
And I duplicated some cassettes myself, because it was all tapes back then, cassette tapes, and photocopied some cassette inlays and took them to school and tried to sell them to my friends. And I managed to sell about 3 copies, I think, which was, I was really proud of that. That was quite good. So that's my first truly commercial game, I suppose. And during this time, by the way, I was always interested in art. I'd always been into my drawing, and I was learning to play guitar as well. So I kind of like music and drawing. I also like messing around with electronics and things. So the programming was a very natural thing for me to get into, I think, because you get a chance to kind of use all of those skills, So I came up with this silly idea that was basically Defender with different graphics. And I called it Celestial Garbage Collector. And I thought the name alone is going to impress them. I don't need to say anything else. They'll just be like, my God, that's amazing. So I remember going there and talking to David Darling, and it was like, okay, so what's the idea? And I said, okay, Celestial Garbage Collector. It's a bit like Defender, except you're collecting rubbish and it's going to look awesome. And he was obviously, thought, who is this idiot? But he just said, well, look, why don't you just do a conversion of your friend's game? This is the guy that I'd met that took me there. He was doing a game for the Sinclair Spectrum. So I worked on lots of Commodore 64 and Spectrum and Atari ST and Amiga games. But I ended up just doing graphics because programming was quite a headache for me, Missing out a few little sagas, I actually ended up at Bullfrog, which was when I sort of felt like I'd really got into the industry properly, to be honest with you, because they'd actually made original games that were really successful. Populous was the one that they'd just kind of done, really, and that was obviously really successful. Mm-hmm. But I was just like so into it at that point. They gave me this thing like, right, we wanted to convert all of these graphics onto the SNES. I think I did the whole lot in like just a week or something, and they were like, God, what is this guy on drugs or what? And they were really happy. So I managed to sort of progress through the ranks of Bullfrog quite quickly there in terms of, people trusting me and things. And I quite quickly got made a lead artist on Dungeon Keeper. And we finished that game, which was great. And because I'd sort of been there working with Peter, he started a new company called Lionhead. And it felt like a natural progression because I was already working with him. I just carried on working with him, really. So, I was there at Lionhead at the beginning and we did black and white. And I just kind of got more and more interested in contributing to the design, really. And I remember at Lionhead, zoom forward a few years, I got really frustrated with some of the programmers there because I'd come up with certain ideas and they'd be like, oh, that's ridiculous, you can't do that, that's too hard. Shut up, go back to drawing graphics. So in a fit of rage, I decided to teach myself C++, which was, that was the language that everyone was using at Bullfrog to program games. So I kind of learned that and programmed a little demo of what it was I was talking about. I got it working and I'm like, it's not impossible, look, here it is.
Wow, how many times did it take to program?
Oh, I did it in about a week or something, It wasn't GTA, obviously, it was just kind of like a 2D thing, a map with people walking around doing things, but it was really simple. So that was, so I got back into the programming just through being annoyed with programmers, really. And, but that kind of, I'd sort of awoken a beast in me, I think. And then in my spare time, I programmed an indie game called Ragdoll Kung Fu, which was like a simple little fighting game kind of thing. But it was an excuse for me to include this silly kung fu film that me and my friends had made.
So it was a game and a film?
Yeah, it started off as, it was just one weekend, me and my friends said, let's make a silly kung fu film, So I kind of got to a certain stage with that little game, And somehow, kind of accidentally, kind of on purpose, it got put onto the Lionhead website on like a blog page or something. And suddenly it was like all these people were talking about it. They thought it was the next Lionhead game. I kind of got into a bit of trouble for it, really, because it was, you know, it was like, oh, what have I done here? But it was kind of cool. Peter was really cool. But the point is, it had actually gained a little bit of awareness, which was actually a great thing. And bear in mind, I'm doing this all in my spare time as well. This is not, I'm still doing my day job at Lionhead. And through that, I got invited to GDC, which I'd never been to before, didn't know what it was, to show Ragdoll Kung Fu at the Experimental Games Workshop. So suddenly I was getting this kind of attention. And in that crowd was some people from Valve, and they approached me after my presentation. Said they really liked what I was doing and they were looking for this kind of thing to put onto Steam. Was I interested? I thought, yeah, cool. I didn't know what Steam was at the time. That actually became the first non-Steam, non-Valve game to go on Steam, really. Yeah. And now there's thousands of games on there, isn't there? It's like really, really massive. So that's my little claim to fame with Steam. And the main thing about that for me was that I'd kind of made a whole game and seen all of the aspects of it from start to finish. So obviously I sort of designed it, programmed it, did all the graphics, the dev side, but I kind of got involved in the other side of games that I'd never really been involved with. I had to sort of be a bit of a producer. Gave me the confidence to kind of leave and start Media Molecule, really. Mm-hmm. Well, here we are now. Made Little Big Planets. Obviously, it just wasn't me that made Little Big Planet. It was a team of people. I'm just one person on there, but I was on that. I was much more concentrating on just design, really.
Yeah, it was your very own idea at the beginning. You
already
thought about it before starting Media Molecule.
Yeah, no. To be honest, you know, like many of the games at Media Molecule, there isn't like, here's the game that we're going to make. Here's the idea for the game that we're going to make. Let's make it. We just have a few seeds. Still, you know, there's still the pain that you get with any creative endeavour of like just working with other people, different ideas and disagreements and things. Sometimes eats my soul away, but as painful as it is, you do normally end up with something much better than you'd ever be able to make on your own. I mean, the thing that I'd like to say that just about all of this is I've never actually thought of any of this as a career, really. That's the key thing, and that's why I feel so lucky. It was just a hobby for me that I managed to make some money out of, you know, so I can, which is probably the greatest job you can have, is just something that you actually enjoy doing. If I wasn't getting paid for it, I'd still be doing it. So I think I just enjoy doing it. And I enjoy doing other things too. I love making music, for example.
You still play guitar?
Yeah, I mean, I've got more guitars than I can count now, to be honest with you, which is ridiculous. I just keep collecting guitars, but I do play them as well. I'll have a go at playing an instrument. I've actually kind of made myself a little sound studio at home. I've got like a drum kit in there and guitars and bass. I've got a piano.
And you still draw?
Yeah, I don't draw so much, but I like making art, if you know what I mean. So I've got a little boy now as well. He's like 5 years old. Most of my creative endeavours involve him now, so we'll make a picture together or something like this, you know. But I've got a stack of projects in the back of my mind that I'm going to finish or start one day, you know. There's a bunch of things that I've started that I haven't had time to do much work on. I even started making another Commodore 64 game in my spare time, which is just for the pure nostalgia kick, I think.